Are you in love with football? And what about sports betting? Do you want to earn really big money from it? Experts of BetFac prepare dozens of solid and safe predictions with high odds every day, so you can win a lot and stably. Just sign up through the link in the description and punish your bookie.
Now it is Brighton against Manchester United in the Friday night football. Jose Mourinho's side already guaranteed a top four finish, but a win tonight would all but confirm second place as well.
First of all, I'm not thinking again about these numbers and about with this number of points we would win the league in X times. That's not the point for me. The point for me is to finish second. And for that we need 4 points. I think we really deserve to be second. We beat every top team during the season. We beat them all in the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 months or so. We are going normally to reach this 80 points barrier, and we deserve to finish second. So if we finish second, we are the second best team in the Premier League, which I think is very good.
It's a huge game for Brighton, who are 5 points above the relegation zone, and no one more win would guarantee them their Premier League status.
In all of the press conferences I do week in, week out, we've almost got used to saying the next game's our biggest game. But yes, I think without doubt, if we were to get the points that's needed to secure Premier League status against Manchester.
So it is the Friday night football. It is Brighton against Manchester United. Danny is here to look at a few of the tactical nuances. Now, I'm intrigued by this because you are going to tell me, we're going to look at Pogba and Sanchez, you're going to tell me why for one player more is less and the other player less is more. Right, explain.
Yeah, giving me a big build-up now. No, obviously, there's been a lot of talk about, Pogba and Sanchez, playing together. Can they play together? Yeah, I believe they can play together. They are, effectively, two of Manchester United's most attacking threats. They should be. I think they're two world-class players, and it's just getting the best out of both of them whilst being on the pitch at the same time. And I think what we need to do is have a look at some of the clips where they've probably got in each other's way, so to speak. So I think the first half against Manchester City, where they did tend to struggle a little bit. If you look at Pogba here and Sanchez, you look how close they are. Sanchez wanting to come in narrow off the left-hand side. Pogba, obviously, he wants that corridor to run into. But you can see here, to have arguably two of United's best players so close together is always going to be difficult. They end up getting a foul from this, I think. But it's a situation where they find themselves in the same area. And this probably even shows it even more. And this is against West Brom. We see Pogba and Sanchez really close together. We know that Pogba wants to get forward. He likes to go in that inside left channel. But the problem you've got is that Sanchez likes to play narrow as well. So when he comes inside, they almost end up near enough tackling each other here. And the problem is, when you've got two of arguably Manchester United's best players, you could put a blanket over the two of them. You don't want that. And that's very difficult. If I'm playing against Pogba and Sanchez, to see them so close like this, you'd be delighted as a defender because you know that arguably two players can take care of them two because they're in such a confined space. But when they're separated, then it becomes much more difficult, and you see how compact it is in that middle. So what you tend to find is when you have the situation that Manchester United have, like I say, where you've got Pogba and Sanchez both on that left-hand side. So when we talk about Sanchez, let's move these players out of the way because they'll be further over here. Talking about Matic and Herrera. And we'll come on to Manchester City in the second half in a minute. Now, as we talk about Pogba, we know that this is the channel that he wants to get into. We've seen it when he's at his best, starting from deep and then getting into here. That is when Pogba's at his best. Now, the problem you have, because Sanchez wants to come narrow, so all of a sudden, he's gone inside to here. The fullback's going to come with him. So that means Sanchez has gone in there. All of a sudden, you arguably could have 4 players that find themselves in that position. Now, what happens then? The frustration starts to become apparent with Pogba because your top players, they want to go and get on the ball. So what he then does, you've got your 2 defensive midfielders here. 2 full-backs as well. What he does, inevitably, when he starts to get frustrated, he's going to start dropping deep and getting in these spaces. Then he'll look to try and get the ball from Matic, maybe deep, Lindelof, Smalling, or even Young. Now, that's fine, but I look at Pogba, and I've said before that I don't believe that there's box-to-box midfielders. Now, I think you're either an attacking midfielder or a defensive midfielder. So you want to see Pogba higher up the pitch. Now, where we're talking about less is more, Pogba's situation, which we'll come on to in a minute. Manchester City in the first half, he had more touches in the first half than he did in the second half, yet in the second half was arguably one of the best 45 minutes he's had for Manchester United, and scored 2 goals. So then now, if we now take it back and have a look then, this is with Martial on the left-hand side, and this was against Bournemouth. This is a big difference here. So you look at Martial. Martial is not so wide there, but he's high up the pitch. Pogba's got this space to run into. So you see where Martial is. There's a space then for Pogba to get into, because when he gets into his stride, he can break the opposition midfield, and you're not going to be able to keep up with him. Martial then goes wide, and Pogba's still finding his own space. Once again, you see Martial, he's got that corridor now. He's got that avenue which he can run into. You'd fancy him one-on-one when he fronts somebody up. Look at all the spaces there for him to go and run into. That's key, that's what he needs, and that's what you need to give your best players space to go and create. And this is the icing on the cake. Martial dropping deep and wide. Look at the space that Pogba's got to get into. He doesn't even get into full pelt here, and he's already leaving the Bournemouth players behind because he's so quick. And inevitably, the end result, lovely run from Lukaku, and the ball ends up in the back of the net. So what you have to try and do, like I say, with Sanchez and with Pogba in particular, you've got to try and create space for them whilst being on the pitch at the same time. So if we then go back to Martial, and we're talking about the situation here. We talk about Pogba going forward. Like I say, we talk about these players higher up the pitch. Now, Pogba played a lot higher up against Bournemouth because the situation was here. The fullback goes out. The midfielder wants to try and keep up with him, but we've spoken about the fact before that Pogba is really good at breaking through the opposition's midfield, getting behind them. All of a sudden, because Martial's keeping the width, look at this area. The knock-on effect from that is that, like I say, when Pogba breaks through the opposition midfield, you as a centre-back, you're in all types of trouble. Because then he's got to come over, and how many times this season have we seen Pogba break into there, the centre-back have to come over, and then, obviously, Lukaku's injured at the moment, but he plays that ball into there, and look how separated the 2 centre-backs are, because he's asking questions of them. And you need Pogba to be able to make the runs, otherwise it's a lot easier for the likes of any back 4 or back 3 that you're playing against to stay tight and compact. Now, the one way you can look at it with Sanchez, if we go, this is Manchester City in the second half. The difference was, Sanchez still played in the same position. It was Pogba that changed his position. He went further over to the right-hand side. Look at the run he's made here. He's made this run. Sanchez finds him. Absolutely brilliant. From Sanchez and from Pogba. Sanchez had more touches in the second half than he did in the first half. Therefore, he had 2 assists, and him and Pogba linked up well. And what happened was, we spoke about Sanchez, the fact that he may start wide, but what happened was, if anything, I'm not saying it was completely like this, this is what seemed to happen. Pogba went over further to that right-hand side. Now, whoever's playing on this side, they're not going to keep the width, but what they do, they don't come into this area. They actually end up near enough in the number 10 area. So that still then leaves the space for him to get into there. So instead of doing that on the left-hand side in the second half, he was doing that on the right-hand side. Sanchez was coming in narrow. That was absolutely fine because him and Pogba weren't getting in each other's way, so he had more time to dictate play, get on the ball and do what he wanted to do. And Pogba, likewise, he shifted over the pitch a little bit more and he found freedom and ended up getting 2 goals. So I look at the situation with Sanchez and Pogba and say, OK, Sanchez can play on the right of a 3 up front. He did it for Barcelona in his last season there, was absolutely magnificent. Pogba can play on the left of a 3, or if need be, can play on the right of a 3. But there's no doubt about it that these 2 can play in the team together. 2 world-class players, and it's up now to Manchester United to get the best out of them. And if they can do that, then I don't see any reason why they won't be challenging Manchester City.
Fascinating. We shall see.